Hello fellow slurs, TransCatDad here. So today I'm going to be talking about some rhetoric that I notice a lot of people employ whenever they're coming to the defense of trans people, particularly whenever it comes to the quote-unquote trans bathroom debate. And there's something that I notice where trans men are sort of used rhetorically as a gotcha. And this isn't something that only trans men experience. This is something that intersex people very commonly experience as well, where they're only brought into the conversation to say, well, you see, you're wrong because this type of person also exists. But, you know, quickly, the token is discarded and forgotten about after this point is made. And you know, the most important part, I think, is that it's actually quite insensitive towards trans men and our struggles and our needs as a community. Even though, oddly, I see some trans men employ this talking point. You know, I know that there are some trans men, even though I haven't said what it is yet, they know exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm going to pull up some videos. There's only a certain type of trans man who will employ this point, and it's for a certain reason. It's because they pass. They pass as like a very, like, run-of-the-mills, like, gender-conforming cis man, so it works for them. I'm just going to show it to you now. So here's a trans man using this piece of rhetoric that I'm taking issue with. To be clear, the guy who made this video, he is a trans guy, and the caption says, "Someone's husband coming to see why a man is in the women's bathroom." The second part of this is him innocently sitting on the toilet with wrapping up some toilet paper, unwinding some toilet paper. It says, "Me as a trans man using the assigned bathroom that was, or using the bathroom that was assigned to me at birth." And, you know, a lot of people like this. I see a lot of left-wing people, a lot of socially progressive people sharing these types of videos, these types of memes, and I understand the sentiment. The sentiment here is, gosh, the transphobes are so foolish. Don't they understand that if they pass this legislation, then it's going to put men in the women's restroom? Isn't that the opposite of what they want? And guys, oh my goodness, they do not care. They do not care where trans men have to go. They don't, if somebody like me, if I visit Florida, it's illegal for me in Florida to use the men's bathroom in certain public spaces. I believe state buildings are key examples of this. You might know there was a trans woman who used a women's restroom recently in an intentional protest. She actually contacted, I think, state representatives before she went into the bathroom, wanting to bring attention to the issue. I can link an interview of this if I actually remember to do it later. Point is, you know, if you pass and you shut the fuck up, that's the bathroom you got to be in. I'm just going to say, like, for your safety, if you're a trans person, you're asking what bathroom you're supposed to use, it's not a question. You should know this by now. Whatever the fuck you look like, that's the bathroom you need to be using. Like, I know it's horrible. Actually, like, the real answer is there's an app called Refuge Restroom. Download that app. It helps you locate gender-neutral restrooms that you can access. This is an app that I used a lot during my first 2 years of transition when I looked like I could not pass as either gender, and I did not necessarily feel safe using either bathroom. The point is, there are a lot of trans men who are not safe in the men's bathroom. Did you know? Did you know that not all trans men look like that guy? Did you know that not all trans men look like me? Did you know that I did not look like this until like a year ago? I've been transitioning for almost 6 years now. I did not start passing until I was about 3 years on testosterone. Three years. There were 3 years of my life where I was in my late 20s And anytime I used a bathroom, I had to watch my fucking back because it was not safe. So let me give you an example of what trans men might look like. I don't know. Here's another little example. Look, this is me in 2019 when I had just come out as trans. What do you think if I used the women's bathroom? Are they going to be like, "Oh my god, a man, I've made a terrible mistake. We need to protest this legislation. We need to get these threatening men out of the bathroom"? Do you have any idea what my goddamn voice sounded like when I looked like this? No fucking way I'm wearing the same shirt. Are you serious? This is 2019. This is 6 years ago, almost.
And this is my voice 2 seconds on T.
You know, whenever you stop and remember for 5 seconds that a lot of trans men look like that, a lot of trans men do not pass. I was not safe in the women's or the men's restroom. Okay, you know what? I want to bring up another example. Again, this is another trans man who's bringing up the issue in this video, and this is Jamie Dodger, who y'all might know. If you're on trans masculine YouTube, you probably know this guy. And so it's the same thing again. So the caption says, "Trans men coming to a women's bathroom near you because that's what the TERFs want, right?" And, you know, like, don't get me wrong, I watch this guy's content, I respect him, I think he's fine, I think he's great, to an extent. I do think that he's quite, liberal, and that's alright, you know? Some trans people are liberal, I accept them, mostly because they're trans. And so I'm attacking this from the left, not from the right. You know, if we take a look at Jamie for another second, like, yeah, let's address the elephant in the room, which is he's incredibly cis-passing. So something I need to explain here is that there is a point that is being seeded in these two videos alone. And this is maybe a little bit subtle, and I am going to show a couple more. Here's the third video. This is another trans man. I don't remember his name. Aiden?
So I look terrible and I sound terrible. Get over it. I have something important to share. In Montana, there's testimony being heard on an anti-trans bill, HB 121. The number one point being brought up in testimony by people who are for this bill is the protection of women. Allowing trans men into women's restrooms makes it even easier for cisgender men to enter women's restrooms, especially because you cannot tell someone's genitals by just looking at their face and the clothes that they're wearing. So if you're afraid of cis men going in to women's restrooms to hurt women, this is not how you prevent that. This is not it. Period.
That one in particular drives me completely bonkers, because it's just like, why are you engaging with the rules that they have set out? Essentially, what we're seeing here is seeding the point that men, or people who look like men, or people who have penises, or people who are male, quote unquote, in some way, are dangerous. They are dangerous. They pose a threat to the safety of other people, or other genders, or women, or children. I really think that this is an incredibly dangerous route to go down, and it's something that I've spoken against on my channel before. The thing is that posing men as inherently dangerous is why we have the fucking bathroom debate in the first place. This is why we have the bathroom debate in the first place. So if you are ceding that point, then you are agreeing with them that there needs to be a separation of certain types of people in certain types of bathroom in order to protect the victim gender from the predator gender. You are validating this second wave feminist framework of men as inherent essential, biologically essential, and gender essential predators, who have something written on their soul, like stamped into them from birth, or onto their soul if they're trans, that they just can't help being predators. And that's not the reality of what patriarchy is, right? What patriarchy is that socially we give men more power than they ought to have, or people that we perceive as men. And I want to be careful with that language of people we perceive as men, because so long as I am perceived as a cis man, then I can also be given more leniency, more social power, be treated like I'm an expert on things, for example. But on the flip side of that, I'm treated as competent, but I'm also treated as a potential threat. This is one of the biggest differences between what my social experience that I've noticed when I've transitioned is being treated as a threat for the first time in my life. This is something that's very new to me, but it's the most relevant point, I think, to this issue here. Is I don't think that trans people should be ceding the point that men are inherently dangerous, inherently predatory, right? And something that I found particularly egregious about Kyle Davey 25's videos like this, and I say videos because he has more than one. He has more than one short that's almost exactly like this. This one in particular has more than 500,000 updates on YouTube, and it must be getting a lot of attention because it's striking a certain kind of chord with people, and I wonder what kind of certain chord it might be striking in Kyle's video versus Jamie's. And what I'm talking about here is that Kyle is a black trans man. I don't know if he's intentionally weaponizing anti-black racism in order to get his message across, or he just happens to be black and happens to be making the same point. But we used to have in recent history segregation of bathrooms in the US because black people were considered more dangerous and more predatory, a threat on the safety of white women in particular. And that's what this is about. And I don't understand why would we validate that idea? I do not think it's appropriate or rhetorically effective. It's just, I think that you're really reinforcing the root problem. And the root problem is perceiving, the perception of men as predatory, threatening, dangerous. And the thing is, in a way I understand because I'm somebody who has sexual assault trauma at the hands of a man. I have that. I am a multi-sexual assault, harassment, abuse survivor. And every person who has sexually assaulted or harassed or abused me was a man. Actually, a cis man, to be more precise. If we look at Aiden's video again, he puts his thesis statement very plainly into the description of this video. Trans men in the ladies' bathroom makes it even easier for cis men to enter the ladies' bathroom undetected. That's what he typed. I think that we shouldn't have bathroom bills because trans people deserve dignity and privacy and respect. I don't think they deserve it because men are dangerous. And again, I'm gonna level with you as somebody who does have assault trauma, specifically from men. It's not that the trauma was bad because a man did it. It was bad because I was assaulted. It was bad because I was abused. I just find it really frustrating that I have to plead with other trans people and say, listen, just because you're cis passing and you look the way that you want to look and you feel aligned in your gender doesn't mean other people are like that. And also, the other half of that is just because you look a certain way, that doesn't say shit about who you are. It doesn't say shit about the things that you've experienced. I think most people look at me and they don't think, that person's a victim of patriarchy. That person, that's a person who had an abortion. Nobody knows that I had an abortion by looking at me. Nobody knows that I'm a socialist by looking at me. You know, sometimes the people who look like predator gender, the people who look like they're very strong and very masculine, sometimes those are the victims of patriarchy, actually. Like, I don't know, can we look at Terry Crews for a minute? This guy is a victim of sexual assault, like, famously. He's talked about it openly. I just don't understand why there are trans men reinforcing the idea that if you are a man, you are a predator and therefore you don't belong in the women's restroom. And I say, you know, now that I say it out loud, I do know why that is. It's because they want their access. They want their privilege. They want their access to the bathroom that they belong in. And I understand that. I also want that. I guess the difference is that I'm not going to pretend that, like, the gender binary and, like, gender essentialism is real and makes sense just because I pass. I think what I notice sometimes is that there are trans men who feel validated by the binary. You know, I mean, like, there are cis-passing trans people in general who feel validated by these ideas. And so they just, you know, they keep their head down, they go along with it. I don't know. It's just, you know, I said earlier that, like, I have a degree of respect for Jamie Dodger in particular. And he's one of the people that I would maybe hope to see better from. And you know what? I'm actually going to go to bat for cis men too. I actually am going to go here, because here's the thing. I think that if a cis man needs access to the women's restroom for some kind of reason, then I think that he shouldn't be fearful. I think that he should have the opportunity to use that space if he needs it. Let me give you a couple examples, okay? I'm disabled, and I'm also trans. I have to sit down to pee. I do have to sit to pee. And sometimes, occasionally, a men's restroom either will only have one stall, one place to sit, and it might be occupied, or there just might not be one. There might be only urinals. This is a thing that happens occasionally. And if you are a disabled man, trans or cis, and you need access to a bathroom, and you need to sit down, and that motherfucker's not getting off the toilet, or if there is not a toilet for you, I think you should be able to use the women's bathroom safely. I think that. I don't think that you're inherently a threat or a danger to other people just because you look like a man, or you have a masculine gender expression, or because people are making the assumption of what kind of genitals you have. Truly, the position that I think that trans people should be advocating for when it comes to bathrooms is not only should trans people not have, like, some kind of extra ban or limitation or segregation on, like, how we use the bathroom. Not only should this never apply to trans people, it should never apply to any person depending on their gender. You know, it doesn't make people more safe. It doesn't. I don't think it does. What it does is make bathrooms more expensive, right? There are plenty of places, and, like, cis people and trans people, I can tell you that there are places where bathrooms are not segregated by gender, and it's fine. It's fucking fine. Let me tell you, like, for example, I don't know, in my house, I got 2 bathrooms. You know, I'm a lucky, bougie little boy. I got an upstairs and a downstairs bathroom. You think in my house, where there's one trans woman and one trans man living in my house, I got signs on my bathroom to make sure that everybody is safe, including the guests? You think I got one bathroom? No, like, of course not. It's obscene. It's ridiculous. It's a fucking joke. And I think, you know, when we talk about the bathrooms that we have in our house, it makes it rather clear. Somebody says, but what if a trans woman tries to use the bathroom? Okay, well, trans women gotta piss. You know, they gotta piss. The spironolactone, it's a diuretic. You gotta piss a lot. Somebody says, but what if trans men using the women's bathroom makes it easier for cis men to use the bathroom? Then you go, okay, I don't care. Why would I care if there's a cis man in the bathroom? What's illegal to do in the bathroom is assaulting and harassing people like the cops did to that cis lady who didn't look cis enough for them, okay? That's what should be illegal. Assaulting, harassing, removing people from the bathroom. Leave people the fuck alone in the bathroom regardless of what gender they look like. Simple as. This is just pick-me shit. It's just pick-me behavior of, well, I'm a man and I understand that you must be scared because I look like a man. And I find that very validating. So, what you should do is make sure that I'm banned from the women's bathroom and then everything's gonna work out for everyone. Like, oh man. It's just straight pick me shit. I see trans men on forums sometimes and they're like, why do other people in the community act a little bit hesitant around me sometimes? And I'm like, it's not your fault necessarily, because there's a lot of reason, but I'm just saying that this just is not it. I don't like this. I don't like it. This sucks. I just think it sucks. It's not good. I just don't find it reasonable for bathrooms to be segregated by sex. It doesn't make any sense. You'll probably hear some dads, like cis dads even, just say it's really hard being a single dad because a lot of men's restrooms do not have a changing table because, we got this misogynistic patriarchal society going on where we assume that that's women's work. If somebody's taking a baby into a bathroom to change him, it's going to be an adult human female, and it's so insufferable to me. It's so insufferable to me that, why? I honestly feel like it's a pretty good illustration between the difference of a liberal attitude versus a leftist attitude, which, a liberal attitude, especially in terms of, identity politics, is, what can we do to, not actually make anything better, but look at the way the core of the world is now and keep it the way it is because I'm genuinely scared of change. I don't want big change. I want to have some kind of superficial difference. The leftist says, the anarchist says, it's the little crank machine. The anarchist says moo or some shit. What actually? No, the anarchist says meow. It says nyan, obviously. What was I thinking? The anarchist, they say, why would we divide people based on their gender in the bathroom? Everybody in there to piss and shit. It's not a big deal. It's not that complicated, Assaulting someone is already against the law. It's already illegal. There's no reason to create any more extra policies on top of this except to create and reinforce certain attitudes about certain types of people and gender dynamics, gender hierarchy, where we're going to reinforce the idea that women should be raising children and only, every one of these goddamn buildings, we're talking about public bathrooms. They're either being paid for by a filthy capitalist or the state, state tax dollars. Either way, they don't want to be spending money that they don't have to spend. So if they can only buy one changing table, well, they can buy more, but they got to save up a little more for their little billionaire treats. You know what I mean? Fuck those dads. If those dads got to change their baby, fuck their dads. We already have a cultural attitude that we can prey on, use this attitude, this patriarchy and this misogyny to validate our neglect of people and our reinforcement of these attitudes. Save a little cash, keep people divided. That's the way I see it anyway. But the point is, the anarchists, they say nyan, and they say, let's get rid of the segregated bathrooms. They suck. And what the liberal says is, no, that's too far. That's too confusing. I think what we got to do is put tampons into the men's bathroom and put urinals into the women's bathroom. And then everyone's going to be happy. Everyone's going to be safe. Nothing bad will happen. And God damn it, I just fucking hate all of you. I hate all of you so much. And just to be crystal fucking clear so I'm not misunderstood, I am not anti putting sanitary products into the men's bathroom. I think it's great. Please, by all means, But the thing that I really have a problem with is like, do you guys like? It's like you think that you're meeting somebody's needs when you're like completely out of touch with what a community is asking for. You know, like, yes, trans men need access to this stuff and they deserve access to this stuff, but do you have any idea how fucking terrified the average trans man is to use the men's bathroom? Like, especially guys who don't pass, who's a lot of guys. That's a lot of guys, especially for like the first couple years, first several years of the transition. Some people never pass, like I've said. If you don't use pads or tampons, you might not think about it very much. Do you know how much fucking noise those things make? And they make a crinkly paper noise, sound like you're opening up a Snickers bar in the toilet, you know? That's not a sound that you usually hear in the men's bathroom, okay? And you know what? Every fucking trans person in the bathroom is terrified of is getting clocked in the bathroom because you motherfucking cis people come in and beat the shit out of us. You won't stop doing it. You put your phone camera, you start recording, you put it under the stall and try to get a peek at whatever is between our legs. You want to see? You want to see it's in the toilet too, motherfucker? You probably do. Like, cis people are fucking sick freaks. That's just what you are. That's what all you fuckers are to me. It's just, you can put the tampons and the pads in the bathroom. You can put them in there, and that's great. I'm sorry to say this is something that conservatives are right about. You know what's going to happen to those is they are going to get wasted by cis men who hate trans people as like something that makes them feel good. They're like, huh, you think you can let women into the men's bathroom, brother? I'll show you. And then they just, I don't know, they just steal them or throw them in the trash or like use them to like wipe their ass or whatever, man. Like, they're creatures. They're fucking creatures. I know like half of the point of this video was like, don't be mean to cis men. They aren't inherently dangerous. But it's like, man, I'm having an acknowledgement. I'm acknowledging the reality of the situation, which is most trans men, trans masculine people, have a lot of fear and reasonable hesitation of using the men's bathroom, and even more fear and reasonable hesitation of changing a sanitary product in the men's bathroom. You know, half the time, I am going to say, cis men are kind of fucking stupid, and they hear that crinkly sound, and they go, hey, you got some chips in there? You gonna share? I don't know. It's just, it's fine. It's fine. Liberals, remember that I hate you, but, you know, it's a truce. You can put the tampons in the bathroom. I'm not going to stop you. That's what I'm saying. I'm not going to stop you. And if you're going to ask me about urinals in the women's bathroom, like, man, that's all I'm saying is it's a very expensive. Tampons, that's expensive. Installing a whole goddamn urinal into the women's bathroom that basically nobody's going to use because, I mean, the trans women are not going to risk getting clocked in the fucking bathroom because they don't want to get killed. You know, it's just, oh my god. Oh my god. This is why I hate everyone, man. This is why. And like, we're talking about trans men who don't pass, right? There are trans women who do not pass also. There are trans women who do not pass as women, or have not started transitioning, or can't or won't transition for whatever reason, or just are never going to pass as women. Like, this is just the experience that some people have. There are non-binary people, like, who are trans feminine, and I think that if they feel safer in the women's bathroom, and even if they fucking look like men, even if they haven't done shit to transition, even if they have beards, I think that they should have access to the goddamn women's bathroom. You know, earlier in this video, I said, for your safety, if you're asking me, you should go into the bathroom that you look like, that you're going to fly under the radar there. That I do think that, like, for your safety, that is what I believe. Because I'm scared of cis people and what they will do to you. That's why I'm saying this. Because cis people will fucking kill you. They will. They've done it before. They will do it again. You know, earlier I said, this is what I looked like in 2019. Trans men can look like this. You know, which bathroom is he supposed to go in? And, you know, sometimes trans men look like this. Sometimes they look like dead 16-year-olds who were beaten in the women's bathroom because they were told that they were going to be safer in there. You know? I'm sorry to bring this up. I know it's Like, this is a life or death situation for people like me. Like, this isn't a fucking joke to me. I look at videos like Jamie Dodger's video here, and it's so funny to him. And, like, you know, I've seen enough of his videos. I understand the context. I know that it's not just a fucking joke or a game to him. But when I see this, and it's like trans men are beaten and killed in women's bathrooms. It has happened. It will happen again. You know, I've talked about this particular case with you guys before. I think in 2022, a 20-year-old trans man named Noah Ruiz. He was at a campground in Ohio, and the owner of the campground said, you know, I think that he must have gone there and asked, which bathroom is safe for me to use because I'm trans? Which one do you want me to use? I want to follow the rules. Told this guy, this 20-year-old guy, to use the women's bathroom. Like, bro, you got the double X chromosomes, you got the pussy, I think you got to be in the women's bathroom. That's what I want you to do. And he goes into the bathroom. Somebody calls their husband or their boyfriend. This cis woman in the bathroom says, no man should be in this bathroom. Like, if you're a man, you need to use the man's bathroom. And he responded, I'm transgender. Like, I have woman body parts, and I was told to use this bathroom. After he left the bathroom, he was approached by 3 men who shoved him and yelled slurs at him. The attack escalated from there, with dozens of people joining in. There was an old man that picked me up by my sports bra straps off the ground and was saying he was gonna kill me and calling me a fag and shit like that. I had somebody choke me out to the point where my face turned purple. You know, this trans man is lucky to be alive, and I do not see humor or effectiveness in videos like this. Just when I've seen the suffering and the trauma and the danger and the actual deaths that people like me have experienced. You know, some of us are not here to tell the fucking story anymore at this point. It's not fucking funny to me. Okay, let's watch one more. And this is 2 cis people talking about trans people. So that's how you know it's going to be even better, right?
What concerns me about the toilet debate is if trans men then have to use women's toilets, that's going to make women less safe, because how are you going to stop a man, a normal man, going into a woman's toilets and saying, I'm a trans man? And so I think we have to look at
I don't follow that logic.
Why?
Because the point is that we're saying that people who are biologically men shouldn't be using women's toilets. That's the point of this ruling, among other things.
But a trans man is biologically a woman.
Someone who's transitioned from being a woman to a man is...
And so they would then have to use women's toilets.
And you know, it's like, do I have the temptation to laugh a little bit whenever I see a transphobe not understand that trans masculine people exist, and they freeze up on air in front of their entire audience? Is that a little funny? Yeah, I guess it is a little funny. But you know what's not fucking funny is, first of all, normal men. That's what she called cis men versus trans men. If you let trans men into the women's bathroom, then what's going to stop normal men from also using the bathroom? Like, man, like, first of all, like, the whole reason, again, like, why this is happening, why this is even a conversation, is because, like, you've already seeded the concept that men, whether cis or trans, especially cis, I guess, are truly dangers, predators in the bathroom. And like this rhetoric leaks over to all kinds of people. If you are a trans man and you pass as a man, then you're dangerous. You're dangerous in the bathroom, or you're dangerous in the woods, or wherever else. If you are a trans woman and you don't pass, danger. If you're a cis woman and you don't pass as a cis woman, danger. If you're a non-transitioning trans woman, danger. I've seen this rhetoric turned against trans people within the trans community. I have seen a non-transitioning trans feminine person be kicked out of a trans community because a trans woman said that she was a man faking it and she was a predator. I'm so tired. I'm so tired of this rhetoric, and I just don't think it has any place. I do not think it has any place in our community, period. You know, I think a really big part of being trans is believing that a person can be anything, regardless of your gonads, regardless of your genitals, regardless of your chromosomes, your sex hormones. You know, you can be anyone, no matter what the fuck you look like. You can be anything. And I think that's like a really beautiful thing about being trans, right? Like, not to be corny, but like, you know, when I was a little kid, people would say, you can be anyone. Don't judge a book by its cover. You can be anything. And that is beautiful. It really is. It is beautiful. It totally is. And you know, call me idealistic, but I think it's true. I think that no matter how you look, you really could have like experiences that nobody could guess or perceive by looking at you. I think that's like rather evident, right? Like, that's rather obvious. And I'm so tired. I'm so tired. I don't think that the punchline of I don't know that trans men exist, it's actually not funny. It's kind of fucked up. The fact of the matter is that, like, I'm going to be misunderstood by basically anyone, you know, everyone, everywhere I go. That's what it is to be a trans man, in my opinion, is if I tell somebody I'm trans, they're going to say, oh, you want to be a woman? You know? Where, like, previously, if I had said, oh, I'm trans, whenever I wasn't passing yet, they'll be like, oh, you're non-binary? Oh, you want to be a boy, but you're not really a boy? You're trying to be a boy? It's just like, no matter what the fuck I do, no matter what the fuck I look like, either I'm a confused girl or a predator. You know, these are my options. These are the things that I can be perceived as. Like, is this a fucking joke? Does anybody think this is, like, fucked up but me? Am I the only one who thinks this is a problem? Because I kind of think it's not okay. You know, and again, like, I really can't stress this point enough because, like, I get so concerned that y'all are going to be like, oh, Oliver's just an MRA. He's an MRA going on it. Men going their own way tangent, you know? And, like, it's not what it is. It's that men are human beings. Men are human beings and they can be anything. You know, if somebody's assigned male at birth and they look like a man, did you know that they might be non-binary? Did you know that they could be non-binary? I mean, you could make the assumption that they're a man. I guess you could do that. But I think it sucks. You could make the assumption that they're a predator, but I also think that sucks. I think it's an incredibly unreasonable and irrational way to think about people just because of like their gender expression or what kind of genitals they have. It's just, I'm so tired. Like, I've gotten like an actual tension. This video is like hard to record because I'm giving myself like an actual tension headache trying to talk about it, because nobody seems to like share this viewpoint except like a select, I don't know, subculture of trans men. You know, something that I was saying earlier is that if the TERFs, like in Jamie's video, oh, because apparently that's what the TERFs want. That's what the TERFs want, right? For trans men to be in the women's bathroom. And it's like, yes, that is what they want. Do you know what they fucking want? They want people like me to be scared to use the fucking bathroom, because they know what's going to happen is, like, you can brag, you can make these funny little videos and be like, oh, you really want me in the women's bathroom? It's going to make you change your mind. No, that's not what's going to happen. Either your dumbass is going to be a cis-passing man and use the bathroom looking like a dude, use the women's bathroom and get your ass kicked or get killed like Nex Benedict or like Noah Ruiz or so many trans men whose names we haven't heard, or news articles that I haven't had the emotional wherewithal to deal with, to even look up because it breaks my fucking heart. Like, we're gonna get killed for that. We're going to get injured. We're going to lose our jobs for using the women's bathroom at our job. If that's what you want to try, if you want to try to follow the rules so badly. Or alternatively, you know, like me, when and if it becomes illegal for me to use the men's bathroom in Missouri, I'm going to use it anyway. I'm going to use it anyway, and I'm going to have to make myself small and pretend that I'm cis, even though I'm not cis, and it pains me to pretend. I really fucking hate pretending to be one of you people. I genuinely do. It makes me incredibly uncomfortable, because I'm not one of you. I don't want to be like one of you. I know how you people are. Like, frankly, if we want to get into, like, what type of person is bad and dangerous, it's cis people. It's not men, it's cis people. It was a collaborative effort. You know, Nex Benedict was beaten by girls in the bathroom, not boys. It's not that the boys were dangerous. Nex Benedict was beaten by 3 female students. I really don't know how I could make this any more clear. You know, it's just Nex Benedict is somebody like me who should still be here, and he's not here anymore. Not because a man or a trans woman came into the bathroom to hurt him. Cis girls in the women's bathroom beat him. 3 cis girls, teenagers. When it comes to what's dangerous in the bathroom, it's bigotry, right? And I think that's incredibly obvious. Transphobia, it makes bathrooms dangerous more than anything else. The intent to assault someone makes the bathroom dangerous. And, you know, I'm going to be clear about something. Assault is illegal unless you're a minority and somebody decided that it was justified, like in Nex's case. On March 21st, Tulsa County District Attorney Steve, piece of shit, whatever your name is, deemed the bathroom altercation to be mutual combat and announced no criminal charges would be filed in connection with the altercation or Benedict's death. You know, I notice anytime I talk about this, I get incredibly worked up, very flustered, and just like, I'm kind of scattered and all over the place from like my emotional reaction to this topic. It's just, I get so worked up about it because I don't understand how you can be a transmasculine person and you can be aware of Nex Benedict dying in this way and then still making content like this, still saying shit like this. It's just so fucked up. It's so fucked up. I guess it's a mechanism of patriarchy where what we do is we give social power to people we understand as men, and we give the power to those people to assault, especially sexually assault, a certain type of person, usually women or very young people, very vulnerable people who have significantly less social power. That's really key to this dynamic, though it's not, of course, always this way. And I guess because this is the way that patriarchy works and because we see it happen over and over, then we decide, well, damn, I guess men are just evil. I guess men are just dangerous, you know? And it's like, if we say, you know what, transphobic people, you know what, misogynist, conservative people, I agree with you. I think that men are dangerous and they shouldn't be in the women's bathroom. Then like it makes this stuff happen. You know, you're not truly advocating for the people who need safety. Like, who you're advocating for is, I guess, cis passing trans people only. Like, that must be the only type of person that you care about whenever you're saying this shit. A lot of trans people do not pass. A lot of trans people will never pass. And I care about those trans people, and you should too. I would say to wind things down and to calm down, bring it back a little bit, is if you're advocating for trans people, if you're looking for advice on rhetoric here, what I want you to think about, what I want you to remember, is that non-passing trans people exist. There are non-transitioning trans people who also exist, and they deserve respect and dignity. You know, it does not matter what they look like. It doesn't matter what steps they have taken or not taken in their transition. They deserve dignity and safety. I want you to think about those people. I don't want you to be like imagining this one highly specific, highly privileged type of trans person that looks like me. Because most trans people do not look like me. You know, you probably heard ContraPoints refer to herself as the tranny 1%. That's me, motherfucker. You know, like, I'm broke a little bit. You know, I could be broker. But when it comes to being a disabled trans person, like, I've won the goddamn lottery. I've had top surgery and it looks amazing. I have access to testosterone, at least for now. And I at least for the time being, don't see any way that I would lose it. And I'm cis-passing. I'm cis-passing and I'm white. I use the men's bathroom at my job and nobody knows. Nobody knows that I'm sitting to pee every time. I don't know if they're gonna figure it out. I even have these little pink triangle earrings now and they still haven't figured me out. Alright everybody, I've given myself a tension headache, so I gotta stop talking about this, but if you're transmasculine in particular, I'm interested in hearing what you have to say about this topic, because I know transmasc people are more likely to already have heard about this and to have thoughts and feelings about this. And, you know, like, if you're somebody who thought this was funny in the past, I'm absolutely not mad at you, because I think the first time I ran into it, I was like, yeah, true. But then I thought about it for like 5 more minutes and I was like, what the fuck? You know. And also, if you are a non-transitioning trans woman or a non-passing trans woman, or hell, if you are a masculine or like butchy lady who might not always pass as cis, I'm interested to hear your thoughts about this as well, because like we have recently more than once heard of cis women being taken out of the women's restroom by police, by cis male police, because they did not appear woman enough, right? And it's just, it's incredibly dangerous, it's incredibly scary, and like what I said at the beginning and middle of the video, still, like, download the Refuge Restroom app. I'm hoping that you live in an area where it can be effective and help you find safe, gender-neutral or family bathrooms that you can use, because frankly, like, cis people are dangerous to trans people in the bathroom. Repeatedly, over and over. They can't leave us alone. They can't stop thinking about us. And when they see us, they can't stop staring at us. And, you know, then their sissy little cogs and their sissy little brains, they start whirring and smoking because they don't have any grease in it. Because, you know, that's just what bigotry, it gums up the oil in the brain. It messes up just about any kind of process that a person would normally have functioning in their lobes, you know? And they go crazy. They go crazy and they, you know, I'm giving them a little bit too much credit. I'm giving them too much of an out, aren't I? I'm just, you know, the reality of the situation is that sometimes people like them hate people like us and are willing to hurt or kill people like us because they do not want to see us. They don't want us to exist in public. They don't want us to exist in the bathroom. They don't care if you pass. If you pass, honestly, that's a more significant threat. They think that you're tricking people. Okay? People like them want to make our lives hard. They want to make our lives dangerous. They want us to be afraid of using the fucking bathroom. Because if we're too scared to use a bathroom, how are we going to hold down a job? Right? If I have to hold my bladder for more than 8 hours every shift, if I had to do that, would I be able to hold down a job? No, I don't think I could. And that's the fucking point. That is the point for trans people to not exist in public. It's not trying to coerce you into passing. I mean, it can feel that way, right? But they do not want you to pass. They absolutely don't want you to pass. Like I said, that's an even more significant threat because I think you're tricking them. It becomes like a whole conspiracy thing. They're terrified. They're terrified of passing trans people. I mean, they do that thing where they're like, phobia? You think I'm scared? Yes, I do think you're scared. I know you're scared. I think you're scared and you're angry and you're fucking stupid. I know you are. I know how you fucking people work. It's pathetic. It's horrible. And I feel very sorry for you. Genuinely, I do. You know, your life would be a lot more interesting and a lot more rich if you were open to understanding people who were different from you. It's like, you know what? Actually, again, earlier I said I have a migraine, I have to stop talking about this. I do. I straight up actually do have to stop talking about this because I did give myself a goddamn headache. So, yeah. You know what? Main takeaway from this video is to stay safe. To do whatever you have to do to stay safe. If you're trans, you have to live. You have to survive. Those are the rules. I didn't make the rules, but, you know, don't shoot the messenger because I also have to live. Because I'm trans, baby. We all got to be living out here. No matter where you are in the world, just prioritize your safety because there are a lot of people out here who do not want us around. There are people out here who, you know, they're willing to make it happen if they know. So... you know, and it's one of those things where it's like, I don't want every trans person to be fucking terrified, but that's just the reality. I can't lie to you. That's just what it is. That's what the world is right now. So, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And don't try to do this by yourself. You know, find your community and watch each other's backs. Okay? Till next time, I love you guys. Bye.